All right, nerds. It's been a while. I've been busy. Everybody's been busy, but we have January Walker on the show, who has been popularly requested by lots of Nerds for Humanity viewers. And so I'm excited to have January on. She was also a trending candidate on Of the People and almost won a donation from yours truly. But
Thank you.
welcome to the show, January. Oh, I forgot to tell you before we went live that we say hello, nerds. So hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds.
So welcome, January. How you doing?
I am absolutely amazing. So I just got back to Utah after being on a business trip. So for those of you that follow me, you're probably like, "Where is she right now?" And I am having a blast in this freezing cold November weather.
Yeah. So when you're not running for office, what sort of line of work are you in?
So I actually invent products or solutions to multi-million dollar problems. So like for the last few years, I've been working in the identity space, protecting not only consumers but companies from bad actors and making sure that you are a real person, that you are who you say you are, and that you own that identity. That and this could be used in so many contexts because you're always having to prove your identity. So whether it's at like a bank, there's financial institutions, there's driver's license companies, and I mean, it just
Yeah.
proliferates into our society.
Maybe you could help out Twitter. They seem to be interested in that kind of thing. There's a lot of action going on there.
I have so many suggestions for Elon Musk if he ever chooses to reach out. Um, but ultimately, I think we're on the precipice of owning our own information. So that might be somewhat disruptive to Twitter's business models.
Well, more to come there, I'm sure. Let's talk a little bit about your background. Like, where did you grow up, and how did you end up running for office? What was the journey?
I grew up all over the world, actually. So my family is originally from Utah. They were the establishers, the founders. So we go all the way back to the land of Deseret. If you guys want to look up the map of what Utah used to be, and my mother was military, and she later on married a military man. So my entire childhood was growing up in that atmosphere. I was born in Germany under U.S. citizenship, and we've gone around to everywhere from Washington to Panama, Minnesota, Colorado,
Hmm.
uh, of course Utah. I've spent time across various states, including Oregon, Texas, Illinois, New Jersey, New York. So
So you've seen a lot of places.
I have, and I've been to this year. If everything works out, I'll hit my 30th country.
What's your favorite
My
other than the
besides the United
U.S.?
States?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay, okay. My favorite, I actually really like Singapore.
Mm.
Everything is clean. The people are like really genuine. It's super safe. Like you can walk around at any hour of the day and not have a concern in the world. So,
Yeah, the food's pretty good there too.
yeah, the food is really good. Have you
Yeah.
tried the century eggs?
Yes, I lived in Singapore for a couple years, and my wife is Singaporean, so
Oh, okay. That's
I've
perfect then.
partaken in many of the dishes there, and agree with you. The cleanliness. I mean, that airport alone
The
is
airport is
just
amazing.
it's off the
Amazing.
hook. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I promise I didn't do any research on you beforehand. So I didn't know
yeah.
that you were going to say your wife was from Singapore.
No, small world. So you were all over the world. I'm guessing um, uh, was that a military family or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Hmm.
was military family.
Hmm.
And then I've been um, in Utah for 17, 18 years now, just
Hmm.
consistently. So
Yeah.
it's a great place, wonderful people, awesome opportunity, tech central, lots of nerds out here. I think we're actually the nerd state of the United States.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah.
That there's probably some people who are gonna want to debate that one, but we'll leave that for a for a future show.
Yeah,
What's the
we can
nerdiest
learn more in
state?
the future.
Yeah, yeah. So you're in product development, and then at some point you decided to put yourself out there and run for office. So you ran for Congress this past cycle. Did you had you run for office prior to that?
No, so like many moderates, politics is very frustrating. So, you know, you mostly look for candidates to step up and believe in and to support. But um, I kind of hit a point where nobody was stepping up to
Mm-hmm.
do what was needed to actually unify the United States and listen to the people. And so the mantle kind of fell to myself.
Was that a hard call for you to do that? Because I'm guessing that was a longer shot. Like you ran as a member of the United Utah Party, not one of the traditional parties. Um, how did you what was the decision making process to go for it?
Yeah, I mean it was a very difficult decision because um well, so first of all, it started back around 2014 when I actually realized that I wanted a different style of leadership. So there was the phase of recognizing that I wanted something different, that other people weren't standing up for it, that like I said, if I wanted that style of leadership, I would have to be the person to step up because it's unfair to expect other people to do something if you aren't willing to do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that sentiment there, and then trying to really define who I was and what I was about and what I was trying to accomplish. Because politics will swirl you around. Like if you don't know who you are, uh, it's just a rough and tumble, and people will take advantage of that. So you have to be very strong. Um, and in addition, neither of the parties were really aligning to the needs of the people at this point because it's always, what's your party platform? What is the party
Mm-hmm.
doing? And it's not really what's best for the people. And that was proven throughout my listening campaign consistently, which is disappointing. So there was this big process that went into it. It was a very multi-year process. And the first time that I really admitted to the public that I was going to do this, it was the day after the elections in 2020. I was like shaking. I was so scared because there's a lot of exposure there, and I knew that people were going to piece me apart and analyze
Mm-hmm.
every last portion.
And what was that like running for office after you decided to go for it? What was the experience like? I mean, obviously, for those who don't know, the you did not win,
Yeah, I
but
didn't win. Well, we kind of won in a way, but not in the typical style of winning.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you got like maybe a fifth of what the Democratic nominee got, which is material. And it's not like I'm guessing you didn't have piles of money versus the other candidates. So you probably outperformed pound for pound. But what was that experience like? Like, was it worth it? And how rough did it get? Because I know a lot of people out there have thought about running and they're like, man, I just don't want to get involved in all the kind of drama.
Yeah, so you were correct. I if I hadn't put in the money myself, my campaign pretty much would have had $0, which,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of surprises people at the end of this because we actually tried to lean in, we tried to fundraise,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of times people just see that banner and it's hard to move beyond the banner of like, oh, you're not a Republican or you're not a Democrat. So coming out, being mostly self-funded and pushing through that, and really understanding why campaigns are so expensive
Mm-hmm.
was a huge part of this. But in the end, it was 100% worth it because for years we have not had hope. We haven't had people that are willing to give up everything to say, I will always put the people first, regardless of the the target that it'll make myself, right? There's always this fear there. And it was good to overcome that. In terms of being a candidate, it's nonstop work, it's nonstop planning. It's harder when you don't have a base level and a team to work from. But if there
Hmm.
are individuals that believe in something more, that truly want to change the world, I can't do it alone. And I essentially have a candidate manual that I've put together that can guide you through every step of the way with what you have to do, even if your campaign is near $0. So it works with what you have.
Yeah. And is there literally a published document that you've put out there, or is it something like metaphorically that you have a manual?
So I have not published it publicly, but I do have it available for individuals that come directly to me, because part of this is, and there's a little selfishness here. If
Hmm.
somebody wants to champion, you know, like neo-Nazi movement, I don't want them taking what I have and using it for nefarious purposes.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Let's uh let's talk about some of the highlights from your lessons learned. Like what would be an example of um things that if you ran again that you would definitely do versus maybe things that you tried that you learned didn't work so well.
Yeah. So when I first started on this, I was trying to run a $0 campaign. And people that were in the industry, they kind of laughed at it. And I understand why now. It's very difficult to do, but I would lean in and say, no, we're going to amplify our voice through marketing efforts, and that is going to take dollar funding. So I would do that. I would also encourage people to do subscriptions more, even $5. So everybody here's a nerd. I see, the math thing that we have going on. So if you calculate it out, if you had, at $5 a month, about 17,000 people subscribing to you at $5 a month, you would be able to have like $1 million in a
Mm,
year. And $1 million is enough for a candidate to truly run and be supported by you. So I subscribe to people that I believe in, and I would encourage others to do the same and to rally around candidates and to support them and to keep it going for an entire year, just that subscription. That would be a learning that I took away. The other one is, the news organizations are based on mostly sensationalism.
mhm.
Sensationalism is not always harmonic, and so if that's what your message is, then it's going to be very difficult to break through, and you can't rely on them to help you. So take to social media, take to making videos, do as many interviews, expand beyond your network as you possibly can, even if you have to go out of state to get people to just talk to you and to share that message. So I think that those would be the top items that I have learned from this campaign, and what I would continue to do differently.
Yeah, well obviously you're on a podcast now. Did you do a lot of that kind of grassroots media outreach and what how do you figure out where to spend your time? Because I'm guessing, there's a million podcasts out there and how do you ensure that you're getting like the best kind of impact for the time you have to put in?
Yeah, I reached out at the end of it to over 500 different groups and
Mm,
asked them to interview us. And when I would reach out to groups, they would ignore us. It didn't matter if they were a podcast, if we were right in line with what they were trying to do. It didn't matter if it was a news organization or a reporter. Take your pick. We
mm,
had zero success in doing that. So what I did is I allowed them to come to us. So leaning into the Twitter spaces was very helpful. I mean, we were doing at one point, 4 Twitter spaces in a day. Doing the TikTok lives really helped. That helped spread the
mhm.
message. Um, it's it, and I hope people understand that this was a very difficult effort to break through when nobody wants to listen to what you're saying. So for me, if somebody gave me the opportunity to speak, I would accept it. And it wouldn't really matter to me if they, were friendly or not, because the goal was to get the message out. And if you can win over people that don't believe in you, then I think that's really meaningful.
And what is the message? What were some of the key message topics or themes that you felt resonated most with folks when you were reaching out?
Yeah, I mean, solutions, just being able to talk to solutions and being able to talk through it. I think that that really captured the interest of the tech crowd. And the biggest reason that I started to lean into that is because nobody was listening. Like I was trying to say, look, we need to be united. We need to work
Hmm.
together. We need to set aside these partisan politics, trying to point out that there were strategists that were manipulating us in these
Mm.
elections. So working through that. It didn't resonate the way that it needed to. So I just said, forget it. I'm going to talk about solutions. I'm going to talk about how we can solve these problems. I'm going to talk about my approach, what I would take, targeting corruption in all forms, no matter what party it came from. Because when you start thwacking on the Republicans and Democrats, you're taking on a power structure, and they will do anything to
Hmm.
get that power. So those were some of the topics that really resonated. Like I talk a lot about distributed ledger or blockchain, how to eliminate the national debt. I mean, the list goes on.
Did the Dobbs stuff come up a lot, and what was your how did you handle it that
The
topic?
what stuff?
The Dobbs, the abortion rights
Oh,
topic.
um, you know, people would frequently bring that up. I mean, I'm having a separate conversation around how this topic is really divisive, and it doesn't present solutions because it's not based on presenting solutions. It's based on tearing apart a nation and ascertaining power. So, people would frequently ask about that, but for me, I'm neither pro-choice, no pro-life, and or not. Yeah, I'm neither of those things, and so it would expand the conversation and create an opportunity for us to build a common consensus and say, okay, yes, I see that you are pro solutions, and how do we prevent unwanted pregnancies?
Yeah. Um, Sounds like a nuanced kind of maybe centrist point of view, and which in theory resonates well with most of the country, but does not seem to surface in terms of election results all the time. Uh, Tell me, tell me a little bit about your engagement with the Forward Party, because that is also an effort that is trying to say, it's not left or right kind of thing. And I know that they endorsed you. It's also a young party, and what was that experience like in terms of your engagement with them?
Yeah, the Forward Party reached out to me, and this is back in like February or March, which I was very grateful for because once we started talking, I think that we found that we had more in common than we initially believed.
Mm,
And uh, specifically being the goal of like we're focusing on solutions, right? We're trying to bring solutions forward. And having having that group in my corner was very helpful for the remainder of the time that I was a candidate. And I was very grateful that they were finally able to do the endorsement because we had talked about doing it at the beginning of the year. And
mm.
you know how politics is in time, like things just passes so quickly that I was just grateful that they went through and figured that out in the end.
Yeah, my sense is that the party is, has a following. It's growing. That when they announce their endorsements, there's a little bump of interest. But it's not yet like, oh, they airdrop, dozens of volunteers and piles of campaign dollars start flowing into the coffers. Is that fair? That it was helpful, but it wasn't kind of like a huge tailwind.
Yeah, I mean, I was very surprised that the local news networks didn't cover the
Mm,
endorsement. That was a surprise to me. Um, and when they endorsed, I did not receive a donation bump. Not
mm,
probably until like the very, very end, which the people, that did send donations, because I do like to be people funded. I really appreciate what you did there. It allowed us to boost our ads. We went from being able to have like 50 ads show a day to almost 1,000 ads show a day. So it really made a difference and helped us pull across that 6%. I think we got 6.6 in the end
mm.
from that help.
So what's are was this kind of like your, hey, I'll go for it once, and if it works, it works. If not, I've got other, you have other things going on in your career and things like that, or do you think you'll pursue public office again?
I have committed to fighting for the people until I can no longer do so. So I will be here for quite some time. I could probably give a decade to this endeavor. We'll see if I can do a decade. I'm not a career politician. I'm just somebody that wants to see a difference, can start up a movement, and hopefully inspire others to take up the mantle after me and continue that on, and actually change the United States to be people centric instead of party centric.
A lot of people who are not career politicians in this and just get fed up with the system and say, I'm just going to put myself out there. I've noticed a lot of them do go for federal offices like U.S. Congress right away. And I'm curious, would you consider a statewide office like, state assembly or something equivalent in Utah? Um, have you, or city council, for wherever you're at now? How do you think about the trade-off between local versus national offices?
I think that local office is very crucial and important. And I feel like at the local level, we have a lot of voices that are similar to mine. But what we
Hmm.
don't have is we don't have that at the federal level. And, I actually stepped down from US Senate, the US Senate run against Mike Lee, since Evan McMullin said that he was going to be throwing
Hmm.
his hat in the ring for him to be able to have that chance and opportunity. So I actually already stepped down into Congress. But my skill set, there aren't a lot of people in the United States or even in the world that have the skill set that I have. So if the goal is to increase the amount of impact that we can have, just keeping it to a small portion of the population would likely continue to have the impact that I currently have today, without elected office. And so the goal is to expand that voice and to take a national stage and show up as a national leader and allow people the opportunity to see that now is the time to break away from the toxic divide that we've been subject to.
Well, there's a 2024 cycle coming up
There is.
before we
It's
know
already
it.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you thinking of throwing your hat in the ring right away, or are you gonna recharge a little bit and kind of maybe think about future cycles? What's your timing like?
Uh, so I am a potential US Congress candidate for 24, I think
Oh,
is
wow.
is
Yeah.
the way that we say it. So
Yeah.
So any support from people, anybody that's ready to do anything, and it could be as simple as, having interviews like this, helping with some of our other endeavors, getting the pieces moved into place between, now and the 24 election to make it so that we get stuff like ranked choice voting, or I personally think that approval voting is a little bit better, but uh it all comes down to the same thing at the end of the day, making sure that we're getting rid of gerrymandering, helping fight for the open primaries, which in Utah is crucial. And then, as well as, I want to have e-voting or mobile voting, blockchain voting. I want to have some of those opportunities, but it's going to take all of us. And we're going to have to start fundraising now, like to play with the big kids And to be able to thwack at the system, you need marketing dollars. And to play with them, you have to come to the table with like 500 or $1 million. And it's not that far. Like less than 1% of the population could change the future for everyone.
And if you won in 24 and you were sworn in 25, what would be the areas that you'd lean into the most? What would be the policy areas that you'd be advocating for first?
First, policy areas. So one is government spending transparency, just because we have got to get our spending under control and actually going to the correct places. If we continue to fail at this, we will see continued inflation and pain, not just throughout the United States, but the entire world. And it doesn't leave a good future for those that come after us. So that would be one of the items. Uh, Education is a huge one. I'm a huge champion of education and planning for the future and actually aligning our skill sets to jobs that are going to be happening in 20 years so that we can continue to remain a world leader and have a fighting chance in what's going to be happening next. Some other ones, environmentalism. Right before I joined our call today, I was driving by a river. So I drove across a bridge and I looked down at the river and it's almost dried up. Like Utah's in a drought and we don't have any water left. Like, well, we have water in 2 years. So environmentalism is huge as well. And there's so many things, but just immediately off the top of my head, like those are some of them. Anything to do with healthcare, mental health is crucial. How we live as a society, like what ultimately it comes down to this: what is first world living? What is that? And then aligning ourselves to it.
Right on. We have a question in the chat from Jeremy Salmons. Is there a story behind Spider-Man and his support for the campaign on Twitter? He's a very active proponent of your efforts. Is there any story behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely adore Spider-Man. He is such an amazing man. I was very surprised by his support. I think he said he first discovered the campaign through one of my my skating videos. So when I do parades, I roller skate through the parade so that I can get through to everybody, and it's cool and it's neat and it's exciting. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, these politicians like wave out of their car or something, right? Nobody's really engaging with the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw this video and he's like, oh, I like what this person is saying. I think he found some similarities between myself and Andrew Yang and what we stood for. And so he started creating graphics, graphics are so helpful. Like the memes are very fun for me. They
Mm-hmm.
brighten up my day, at least, because I get to look at them and laugh at them with everybody else. And so I just have appreciated everything that he's done. And I would like to, if the opportunity ever presents itself, hang out with him outside of politics now that politics is taking a small hiatus for like a month or so.
Yeah. No, the creativity in his work is super impressive, and he did something for this interview. I might as well share it. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can
let's
find
watch
it.
it.
Because like I didn't ask him to do it, and it's just one of those things where it's like a pleasant surprise. Let me see if I can
Exactly.
find it. Where the hell is it?
Well, and he's super funny, right? His humor is like just
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Of course, it's one of those things where you see it all the time, and then when you look for it, it's not as easy. Hold on. Where? Oh, here it is. Okay. Share screen. Twitter.
Find me a find, catch me a catch. matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch.
Oh my
This
God.
smile on top of Spider-Man, and then he wants a victory cookie. So when we get elected, when this whole movement is fully accomplished, he wants a oatmeal raisin cookie.
No, that's a pretty good selection. I'm a big fan of the oatmeal raisin cookies as well, and they're not too sweet, and they kind of seem healthy, although I'm sure there's
Seem
decent amount of sugar in them.
there's a
Yeah.
but they're I mean compared to other cookies, especially when you essentially have like the sugar cookies with the frosting, where it's
Oh
like
yeah.
frosting
Yeah.
on this little cookie, and it's pretty much just a sugar paste.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think the oatmeal raisin's a great call. Well, January, it's been great to have you in the nerd zone. Did we cover most of the topics that are top of mind for you, or are there other things that you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Um, there's so many things that we could talk about. I think if I could just land one,
Hmm.
and that is that there's truly hope for the United States, and the divisiveness and anger and frustration that is with politics. It isn't our future. And by the numbers, by the data, the major political party strongholds are weakening. And this animosity is almost like a death rattle. So this is of course my opinion, and some of like theatrical words, but you're seeing a trend, and with this trend that creates a new space for us to have something different in our future. And I truly hope that people will stand up and be brave and run for political office, or step outside the parties, or look beyond the red and blue badges that we wear, and just recognize that we're all a shade of purple.
Yeah, amen to that. I totally agree. And I just see that a couple of our live chat audience wanted to throw in a few quick questions before
Yeah.
we wrap up. So let's hit them. So from Vaughn, who's a channel member, thanks for your support, Vaughn. Would you say there's a lot of technical aspects in your campaign and policies? I'm guessing he means like technology stuff. Does
Yeah.
that help or go against your campaign? Like when you talk about blockchain and the
Yeah.
ledger, like some people are like, oh, cool, but maybe others it's not, it's confusing potentially.
Yeah, so there are a lot of technical aspects in the campaign, and I actually think that it gave us an edge over the other candidates, because when you look at, I mean, people that look up our percentage points, they may just say, "Oh, you only got, 6.6% of the vote," which is,
Hmm.
16.3 thousand people. But that's amazing. That's amazing for a no-name candidate, no-name party, no money, no anything, just
Hmm.
coming to the table and saying, "Hey, I have solutions," and then allowing those solutions to gain traction, and people saying these are actually interesting, or I've learned something, or I tweeted out like an inflammatory tweet around like blockchain and water, how it could help, uh, mostly to capture the attention and interest, and then with an explanation and how we could actually accomplish that. But with that, it's essentially water metering, and to say this is a proven concept, uh, it at least captures people's interest and gets a conversation going. So I think that it actually helped us, more than it hurt us. But yeah, so these are the actual numbers here at the end of the day. And for Utah, we pulled out the highest results in Utah, as a third party federal
Mm.
candidate, besides Evan McMullen, but he didn't have an additional person in his race. He convinced nobody else to
Right.
to run within that. So the other candidates, I think the next highest one was like 3%, and then lots of 2% and 1%ers. So I think it actually gave us a really good edge. And they had way more money than we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's super impressive. I mean, for a first time candidate without a established party to get a fifth of what the Democratic Party candidate got, that's pretty strong for a first timer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a related question from Jeremy, who's also a channel member. Thanks, Jeremy, for supporting the Nerds for Humanity podcast. What could the Forward Party improve on to support local elections? So if you ran again, what would you want the Forward Party to do, next time?
There's so many things. There's a couple of things that immediately come to mind. The first one is a volunteer base. So we need essentially 100 volunteers in the state helping us accomplish what needs to be done next time, because you're talking to people, you're knocking doors, you're making content, videos, going into events, booking events, you have parades. Like it's a nonstop movement. And my campaign was very lean. It was very lean. People are always shocked to hear how much we didn't have and how far we came with nothing. It was next to nothing. It was like, a girl, a robot, a dog, and then we had a few volunteers that would give their time when they could, but that was it. And so having a volunteer movement would be huge. Another thing would be, and this just concerns me in Utah in general, but it's our primaries. So Utah is a partisan state because we're gerrymandered that way. When in fact you have about 40% moderate base, 41% conservative base, and then it's like 15% Democrat, even with the amount of people that have moved into the state. But because of the way that everything's structured and how they draw the boundaries, like they essentially gerrymander the Democrats out of my district, which, they left us alone at least. So we retained our 40% there. But with the primaries and the way that they are, so you have delegates. So throughout the state, you have a population, and the population says, here's our Republican delegate. And there's like 3,700 of them. But the state has over 2 million people. So you have 3,700 of them. And they go in, and they're often the most extreme people. Like I'm in their chat and I listen to them and I'm like, what is this? This is baloney. So for example, they at the convention last year, they brought up the possibility of removing any exceptions for abortion, including rape, incest, and risk to the life of the mother. So they have very extremist views on this. Or that's just one topic, right? So that's one example. And it's essentially 0.0017% of the population that's making decisions for the entire state. So helping us get open primaries, bringing in the legal resources to talk through the legislature to get these opened up would be crucial. And it makes it so, the moderates become reengaged, the entire state becomes reengaged, and it's not just a select group of people manipulating how the whole state works on a political level.
Yeah. I mean, if there were one thing personally that the Forward Party and anyone listening and to this could support, I think open primaries could be a game changer and would then result in so many other benefits downstream.
Yes.
But it's so hard to get the incumbents to be receptive to that. Obviously it's really takes away power from the parties, so.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
And they don't want to lose the hold that they have because yeah. But it says, somebody said, did you guys not know I had a robot?
Yes, Jeremy, I thought you were just making a reference to software in general. Do you literally have a robot? Like a
I have a
physical
robot. I'm the only politician that has a robot. So here,
Can you tell us more about this robot?
Yeah, let me tell you more about it. So are you able to pull up TikTok on your end?
Can you get TikTok on a web browser,
Yeah,
or is it?
You can.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you a link on Twitter. I'll send you a couple of links.
Okay.
So one of the things that I didn't have is I didn't have a group of people that could just follow me around and carry my stuff for me and things like that. And with that, it's also very expensive to hire out those people. So you spend easily $3,000 to $7,000 a month on just having a group of people follow you around. So with our funds, instead of doing that, I did a one-time cost of buying a carrying following robot, and it had a lot of interesting engagement from everybody. So I wrapped it, I put my logo on it, I made it purple. But if you press play
All
on this,
right.
you can
Let's
see
watch.
this dog. I
Share
forgot
with
the dog.
you is at the end of the day.
See it live.
Hi, you want to see it?
Oh, there it is.
You can bark at it. Come on, come check it out.
Oh, it's like branded in your campaign colors too.
Yeah, so this dog, he's really funny. He's at the Capitol frequently, but he goes there, and he's just so curious about it. But we had a contest to name the robot,
Yours liked it much more than mine did.
and
So what was the name of the robot?
well, the name that won was February because it followed February.
Well played,
Yeah.
people.
No, it was
Yeah.
very clever. So
I love it, and it just follows you around. I guess how is it connected to you, like Bluetooth, or how does it know where you are?
so it has cameras on the front, and it uses the same
Oh.
technology that drones use, and so it just sees you, it locks onto you. So it's first generation, so it can lose track of you if somebody walks
Right.
in between, but it can track on humans, it can track on dogs. Is my dog found out the first time that he had an experience with it, it accidentally turned to him, and he was just walking, and robot's following him, and he's like, what's going on? And then he like walks faster, and the robot's going faster because it can get pretty quick, and then he's panicking, so he like runs, and you just have this robot chasing a dog, which was it's pretty funny. But
That's awesome. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show again in the future, January. It was a great conversation, and congrats on such a strong showing for a first timer. And it sounds like it won't be the last we see of January Walker.
It certainly won't. Tom, thank you so much for your persistence. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everybody that is listening, and I hope you have an amazing weekend.
Yeah, have a happy Thanksgiving, and please join me in saying goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds.
See you later, January. Bye. All right. That was January Walker. Glad we had her on the show, and it sounds like she's strongly considering a 2024 run. Sorry, one of the nerdlings is practicing his piano in the background. I feel like he does this on purpose when I'm live streaming, as an act of protest that he has to practice his piano. Either way, speaking of music, we're going to have an upcoming show where I'm going to unveil the Nerds for Humanity show music that has been composed for us, and it was paid for by our channel members' support for the channel. So we're going to have the composer come on the show. We'll talk about what we were going for, and then we'll roll it out, and you can listen for the first time. So keep an eye out for that. But just some reflections on January. Strong communicator, obviously bold and audacious to run, and willing to go for it multiple times, which is kind of what you need to see for people to break through. I also think it was a good feedback on, hey, the Forward Party is still, kind of developing, and it's not yet in a place where it endorses someone and then all of this kind of air power comes with it, which is, I think, what these candidates need. And so it'll be interesting if we get Forward Party representatives in the future to talk about, what kind of war chest, either financially and or volunteers or media, can the party generate, so that Forward Party endorsement really gets closer to pushing people over the threshold. Now let's thank the people who make this channel possible, our channel members. So let's give a shout out. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to support more of this content, please consider doing so by clicking the join link. And who is the biggest supporter of the channel overall? It is none other than Soldier One, who is a senior vice president level. So thank you, Soldier One. Really appreciate that. Let's just share the screen here. Soldier One. Thank you, Soldier One. Okay, next we have our vice presidents. We have Kristen Slevin and Bike. Thank you, Kristen Slevin and Bike. Really appreciate it. Vice presidents of the Nerds for Humanity Nation. And then we have our hardcore, Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Mona, Vaughn, Yang, Robert, Dean, Statnerd, Galessa, J. Perrin, AH, Dana, Jason, Parth, Daniel, and Mickey. And thanks to StreamYard for supporting our streaming costs. Really appreciate that. And then at the verified level, which is only $1.99, so a month, and you can cancel anytime, but it helps kind of keep this channel going. Any member support, so really appreciate it. Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Arez, Sophia, Doris, Emerald, Ben, Rasta, James, Emma, Elizabeth, Ira, Shoni, Dr. Jameson, William, Karen, Zemery, Mai, Brittany, Warren, Wana, Lucky, Kevin, Nell, Toby, Jeremy, David, Nicholas, Mike, Aurora, Zig, and Roberto. So thank you. And who are our youngest and oldest nerds? Let's see. Our oldest nerds overall are Lisa, Jean, Kristen, Albert, and Brandon, and Arez and David, all 34 months, almost 3 years of support. And our youngest nerds are Roberto Silberwasser, Zig PC, Aurora Borealis, Mikey, Mike Sondorp, David Collison, and Nicholas Hensley, all 2 months young and less. So welcome to the Nerd Zone. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Love it. And then on OTP, we're going to be adding a new feature where we can archive a lot of the candidates. Obviously, I think about a third of the OTP most approved voters candidates actually won. So OTP is pretty good at identifying up and coming candidates of the people.us. We're going to be making some improvements there, like archiving previous candidates so they're still searchable, but then doing some design updates and rolling out our Ask Me Anything feature. So thanks to all of those who support of the people.us. And let me just give a shout out to those if I can. Those are supporting us on Patreon. Hopefully, I don't have to remember my password. Yes. Okay. Who are our patrons? Oh, we got a little piano concert behind me. Okay, our biggest supporters on Patreon for of the people.us are Eric Sanchez, Elizabeth Owen, Tony Perella, Rockout, Iggy C, Aaron Sarnat, John Perino, Rob, Timothy Jordan, Jessica Ganoan, Trickle Up, Muhan Jang, Travis Klein, Austin Bagan, Mai Zamiris, and Dylan Shell. So we are going to keep going with OTP. 2024 is around the corner, and I think OTP is actually most useful in the primaries because you get to start seeing kind of candidates that are a little bit newer on the scene. So check it out, and hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Let us know in the comments below if there are other topics you want me to cover. I was thinking about doing a reaction video to the Trump presidential campaign announcement. I'm also thinking about doing a members only panel discussion. So let me know in the comments if either of those or both are of interest, and I'll try and get on the schedule. With that, I'll say goodbye, nerds.